everybody, Brigham with Drift here. Today I want to tell you 4 things I think you should know about the Nidecker Mellow. It's ended up being one of my favorite boards from the last couple of years that I used in all kinds of conditions. I first got the 155. I ran into it in a shop and the price was super low and it looked cool, and I just bought it on a whim and I ended up really liking it. And then I wanted a little more board in maybe 6+ inches of snow. So I ended up grabbing this version, the new shape, in a 160. Before I get into it, check out my specs and my biases below so you kind of know where I'm coming from as a rider. And here we go. The first thing I would mention is about Nidecker as a brand. They probably don't strike you as the coolest brand out there at the moment, but they're behind some of the biggest names out there: Jones, Battalion, Rome, Yes. They've been making snowboards forever. They know how to make a good board. I wouldn't be afraid of Nidecker. The second thing I would mention is, even though this is called the Mellow, this board isn't actually all that mellow. They kind of market it as like a volume shifted surfy pow board, and it is volume shifted, but kind of more of a medium volume shift. It's not that wide. It does have a wide rockered nose with some taper and a tiny bit of a swallowtail, but it's not a very functional swallowtail. It actually has a pretty long effective edge and a pretty long aggressive camber section. So don't be afraid of it. It's not super aggressive. I just think it's a little more aggressive than maybe how they would present it. The cool thing about that is it does great in powder, but it's also really fun on a groomer and a lot better in variable terrain than something that actually is a little more surfy. So for example, the 55 I took on multiple volcano tours in Oregon in the springtime, where edge hold is like the #1 thing, and it did really well. So it actually makes this board a little more aggressive and a little more versatile than it might sound like. The third thing that I would mention is this ash wood veneer top sheet. I just think it's really good looking. The natural wood here, and then painted with some subtle design on the back end. It's good at hiding blemishes and scratches and stuff like that. Feels nice, just looks awesome. The only downside is this part, the unpainted part, the texture is such that when it gets a little bit warm, snow really likes to stick to it and can even kind of freeze to it. Not a huge deal, but something I noticed is a little bit annoying a couple of times. The fourth thing I would mention is that I just think this board is one of the best bangs for the buck out there. If you're looking for like a free-ridey pow board that can be ridden pretty hard, I think usually you have to pay more money for something that rides like this does. It's nice and light. It's beautiful. The only place where they really cut corners is with the base. This is the N7000 base, which is a sintruded base where they extrude sintered material. And I think it's supposed to kind of be between the two. I don't know how true that is, but I do know that even though this base, like the glide isn't going to blow your mind, but I never worried about it either. On those same volcano tours, they have really flat, long exits where I really need good base glide. And as long as I kept it waxed up, it's never been a problem. So I wouldn't even really worry about that at all. So that's the Nidecker Mellow. Every time I got back on this board, I thought, man, I should be riding that more. That's a super fun board. So highly recommended. Thank you so much for watching. Hit us up in the comments if you have any questions or any feedback, and stay tuned because we got a bunch more boards to talk about. Thanks.